A Millionaire's Reckoning, the Astral Albatross. The world stood on the precipice of a new frontier, space tourism. For the ultra-wealthy, it promised the ultimate escape, a journey beyond earthly bounds. But for Ethan Miller, a reclusive billionaire haunted by a past he couldn't outrun, the question wasn't just about the astronomical investment, it was about the true cost of reaching for the stars. Welcome to our channel, where captivating stories are unveiled. Join us as we delve into this dramatic journey, where money, power, and the past intertwine. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the surprising next parts. The air in the study of Apollo Ridge was always still, heavy with the scent of aged leather and the faint, sterile tang of advanced electronics. Ethan Miller, a man whose name echoed with the might of a titan in the tech world, found little solace in its opulence. At 50, his face, etched with lines that spoke more of internal battles than external struggles, was illuminated by the soft glow of a holographic display. Outside, the sprawling expanse of Silicon Valley glittered under the California sun, a testament to the empire he had meticulously built, Oratech Solutions. Yet, within the walls of his sprawling, minimalist mansion, Ethan remained a prisoner of his own making. Apollo Ridge wasn't merely a house. It was a fortress, a monument to a wealth so vast it had become a burden. Every surface gleamed, every piece of art was a masterpiece, every system automated to perfection. The smart glass walls could shift from transparent to transparent with a thought, offering panoramic views of the verdant hills or absolute, impenetrable privacy. Robotic arms, sleek and silent, served his meals, adjusted the climate, and maintained the pristine order of his existence. He had designed it to be the ultimate sanctuary, a place where the chaos of the outside world, and more importantly, the ghosts of his past, could never intrude. He was wrong. Today, the intrusion arrived in the form of a single, elegantly embossed invitation, delivered not by a human hand, but by his personal drone, Orion, which hovered silently before him, projecting the holographic seal of Etheria Ascensions. Ethan picked up the physical card, its heavy stock cool against his fingertips. The logo, a stylized comet arcing gracefully towards a distant star, seemed to mock the stillness of his life. You are cordially invited to an exclusive preview of Project Stardust. Etheria Ascensions. Redefining the Cosmos. Orbital Hall, Los Angeles. Next Tuesday. Ethan's fingers tightened around a card, crinkling the corner. Space tourism. The latest obsession of the ultra-rich, promising zero-gravity ballet and earth-gazing from the celestial ballet box. He had dismissed it as a fleeting folly, a vanity project for those with more money than sense. But Etheria Ascensions was different. They weren't just selling a ride, they were selling an experience, a vision, backed by a level of technological prowess that even Oratech Solutions respected. They were also, he knew, backed by some of the shadiest money on the planet. A sharp, almost physical pang shot through him, a phantom ache in his chest. The words Stardust, Ascensions, Cosmos, they pulled at a thread woven deep into the fabric of his being, a thread he had tried to bury under layers of code, patents, and billions of dollars. It was the thread of a forgotten dream, a shared ambition, and a betrayal that still tasted like ash on his tongue. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, the smart glass parting silently as he approached. The view was breathtaking. Rolling hills dotted with the mansions of his peers, the distant shimmer of the Pacific, and above it all, a sky that seemed impossibly vast. He had built his empire to conquer the earth, to dominate the digital frontier. But the cosmos? That had been Michael's dream. Always Michael's. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through his hand as he stared out. The invitation wasn't just a business proposition, it was a summons, a ghost from a past he had meticulously erased. He had changed his name, his identity, his entire world. Ethan Miller, the reclusive billionaire, was a construct, a fortress built to protect Ethan Davis, the boy from Sterling Drive, Detroit. But some fortresses, he was beginning to realize, were designed to keep things in, not just out. And the past, like a persistent comet, always returned. Will the invitation from Etheria Ascensions be the catalyst for an inevitable confrontation with the past Ethan Miller has tried so hard to bury? Find out in the next part. If you enjoyed this chapter, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more compelling stories, leave a comment with your thoughts, and share it with your friends. The stench of stale beer, cheap cigarettes, and desperation clung to Sterling Drive like a second skin. It was a symphony of sirens and distant shouts, a perpetual hum of struggle that vibrated through the thin walls of their rented duplex. Ethan Davis, then a scrawny kid with eyes too bright for his circumstances, knew every crack in the sidewalk, every broken window, every shadow that promised trouble. This was Detroit in the late 80s and early 90s, a city bleeding jobs and hope, leaving behind pockets of forgotten dreams. His mother, Sarah Davis, was a whisper of a woman, her beauty faded by chronic illness and the relentless grind of poverty. She worked 2, sometimes 3, minimum-wage jobs, a waitress at the Greasy Spoon Diner, a cleaner at the downtown office building, anything to keep a roof over their heads and food on their meager table. Her cough, a dry, persistent rasp, was a constant soundtrack to Ethan's childhood. He remembered her hands, calloused and rough, but always gentle when they smoothed his hair or cupped his face. He remembered the fear in her eyes when the eviction notices started piling up, or when the medical bills for her escalating illness arrived, mocking their empty pockets. The day she died, the air was thick with the smell of rain and despair. Ethan was 12. He sat by her bedside in the sterile, unforgiving white of the public hospital, clutching her hand, feeling the life ebb from her frail fingers. The doctors, weary and overworked, had shaken their heads, muttering about lack of resources and late diagnosis. He heard the unspoken truth: they couldn't afford to save her. The system, designed to protect the privileged, had simply let her go. That moment, the raw, searing pain of powerlessness, forged a steel resolve in Ethan's young heart. He swore he would never be poor again. He would never be helpless again. His escape from the suffocating reality of Sterling Drive came in the form of Michael Chen. Michael was a year older, a whirlwind of restless energy and brilliant ideas, with a shock of unruly red hair and a laugh that could cut through the gloom of their neighborhood. They met in the dusty aisles of the public library, both seeking refuge in the world of books and the nascent whispers of the digital age. While other kids were playing stickball or getting into street fights, Ethan and Michael were hunched over ancient, donated computers at the community center, teaching themselves to code, devouring every programming manual they could find. Michael was the visionary, the dreamer who saw constellations in lines of code. Ethan was the architect, the meticulous builder who could translate Michael's wild ideas into elegant, functional algorithms. Their shared ambition was a fierce, burning flame in the darkness of their lives. They dreamed of building something that would lift them out of the grime, something that would change the world. They spent countless nights fueled by cheap coffee and stolen pizza, their minds buzzing with possibilities. Their breakthrough came in the form of what they called the Nexus Protocol, a revolutionary data compression and analysis algorithm. It was raw, unpolished, but undeniably brilliant. They saw its potential everywhere, from optimizing city traffic to predicting market trends. They believed it could be their ticket out. Their first real opportunity came from a man named Victor Stone. Stone was a name whispered with a mix of awe and fear in Detroit's burgeoning, often illicit, business circles. He was a self-made magnate, the head of Stone Global Industries, a conglomerate that seemed to have its fingers in every pie, from real estate to manufacturing. He was smooth, impeccably dressed, with eyes that held a chilling, predatory glint. He promised them funding, resources, a chance to scale their Nexus protocol beyond their wildest dreams. Ethan, ever the pragmatist, was wary. Michael, blinded by the allure of finally bringing their vision to life, was eager. They met Stone in his opulent downtown office, a stark contrast to their cramped apartment. Stone listened, his face impassive, as Michael passionately explained the Nexus protocol. Ethan, meanwhile, meticulously reviewed the contract Stone offered. It was dense, filled with legalese, but one clause stood out, a poison pill buried deep within the fine print, a complete transfer of intellectual property rights, with a laughably small payout if the project failed to meet Stone's unspecified benchmarks. Ethan argued, pleaded with Michael to see the trap. But Michael, caught in the intoxicating current of Stone's promises, dismissed his friend's caution as paranoia. "He's giving us a chance, Ethan. A real chance," he'd insisted, his voice brimming with a desperate hope Ethan hadn't had the heart to crush. They signed. And then, the world imploded. Stone Global Industries took their Nexus protocol. They twisted it, repurposed it, not for the noble applications Ethan and Michael had envisioned, but for something far more sinister. Rumors began to circulate. The algorithm was being used for aggressive market manipulation, for corporate espionage, even for covert surveillance. Ethan and Michael were sidelined, their access revoked, their calls ignored. When they tried to confront Stone, he laughed. A cold, dismissive sound that still echoed in Ethan's nightmares. "You signed, boys. It's mine now. And if you so much as whisper a word, I'll make sure you disappear." Michael, enraged and heartbroken, refused to back down. He threatened to expose Stone, to leak the truth to the press. Ethan, terrified by Stone's thinly veiled threats, tried to reason with him, to protect him. But Michael, fueled by a righteous fury, was unstoppable. The last time Ethan saw Michael was in the flickering neon glow of a downtown alley, a week after their confrontation with Stone. Michael was on his way to meet a contact, a journalist from the Detroit Free Press. Ethan had begged him not to go alone, a chilling premonition tightening his gut. Michael had just smiled, that same reckless, hopeful smile, and said, "Don't worry, Ethan. I'm going to set things right." He never made it. The next morning, the news channels reported a gang-related incident in the alley. A body was found, unidentifiable. The police investigation was swift, superficial, and ultimately, inconclusive. Ethan knew. He knew it wasn't a gang. It was Stone. Victor Stone had silenced Michael. Was the price of survival and success Ethan paid too high, and can he ever escape the shadow of Victor Stone? Delve deeper into the story by hitting the like button, subscribing for future chapters, sharing your theories in the comments below, and spreading the word. The move to California was less a journey and more an escape. Ethan Miller arrived in the burgeoning tech landscape of the late 90s, a ghost with a brilliant mind and a burning desire for retribution. He started small, working odd jobs in IT, saving every penny, observing, learning. He saw the burgeoning internet, the nascent .com boom, and recognized the fertile ground for his ambition. He lived frugally, in a cramped apartment in San Jose, the antithesis of the sprawling luxury he now inhabited. His days were a relentless cycle of coding, researching, and networking, albeit in a detached, almost clinical manner. He poured every ounce of his intellect, every shred of his emotional energy, into his work. The grief for his mother, the guilt over Michael's fate, the simmering rage against Victor Stone, all were transmuted into fuel for his relentless drive. Auratech Solutions wasn't born in a garage with idealistic dreams, it was forged in the crucible of Ethan's pain and paranoia. His first major breakthrough came with a sophisticated data analytics platform, a refined, more ethical, at least initially, version of the Nexus protocol. He built it with an obsessive focus on security and efficiency, ensuring that no one could ever steal his intellectual property again. He patented everything, locked down every line of code, and surrounded himself with layers of legal protection. He was a demanding, often ruthless, leader. He trusted no one completely. Every employee was vetted, every partnership scrutinized. He pushed his teams to the brink, demanding perfection, because anything less felt like a vulnerability, an opening for another stone to exploit. His personal life became a barren landscape. Relationships were fleeting, transactional, devoid of genuine connection. He saw vulnerability as a weakness, and love as a distraction. His only companions were the lines of code on his screens, the hum of his servers, and the ever-present shadow of his past. Yet, Auratech Solutions soared. It became a byword for innovation, a pioneer in AI, robotics, and advanced data security. Ethan had an uncanny ability to predict market shifts, to identify emerging technologies before anyone else. He acquired smaller companies, crushed competitors, and expanded into global markets with a precision that bordered on surgical. The company's stock price became a vertical line on financial charts, and Ethan Miller's net worth ballooned into the tens of billions. He built Apollo Ridge as the ultimate symbol of his triumph, a fortress against the world, a monument to his unshakable power. He had achieved everything he had sworn to achieve, he was no longer poor, no longer helpless. But the victory felt hollow. The wealth brought no joy, only a deeper sense of isolation. He had conquered the world, but he had lost himself in the process. The golden cage, he realized, was not just around his home, but around his heart. And now, the invitation from Etheria Ascensions, with its cosmic promise, threatened to shatter the fragile peace he had constructed. It was a direct challenge, a cosmic echo of the very dreams he had shared with Michael, now twisted by the hands of men like Victor Stone. The universe, it seemed, had a cruel sense of irony. Can Ethan Miller truly confront these new challenges and find the real meaning of wealth, or will he forever remain trapped in his golden cage? The answer will gradually unfold. If you're captivated by Ethan's journey, show your support by hitting the like button, ensuring you subscribe for all future updates, leaving your thoughts and predictions in the comments, and sharing this gripping tale with your network. The move to California had been an escape, but not a sanctuary from the predatory nature of ambition. Ethan Miller, still haunted by the ghosts of Detroit, arrived in the sun-drenched promise of Silicon Valley with little more than a battered laptop, a few $1,000s saved from odd tech jobs, and the raw, unyielding brilliance that had once fueled the Nexus protocol. He found a cramped, anonymous apartment in San Jose, a stark contrast to the sprawling mansions that dotted the hills around him. His days were a blur of coding, learning, and observing the cutthroat landscape of the burgeoning tech industry. He was building something new, something that would become Auratech Solutions, but he was doing it alone, his guard perpetually up. It was during this formative period that he encountered Arthur Vance. Vance, a charismatic venture capitalist with a silver tongue and a reputation for spotting the next big thing, approached Ethan at a small, obscure tech meetup in a Palo Alto garage. Vance, with his tailored suits and easy smile, seemed like a beacon of opportunity, a stark contrast to the brutal street smarts of Victor Stone. He praised Ethan's early prototypes, his innovative approach to data security, and promised mentorship, funding, and connections. "You have raw genius, Ethan," Vance had purred, his eyes glinting with what Ethan now recognized as a hunger he should have seen then. "I can give you the platform you need to change the world." Ethan, still reeling from Michael's loss and the betrayal by Stone, was wary. But Vance's charm was disarming, his offers too good to refuse. He presented a preliminary investment agreement, seemingly generous, promising a significant stake in the nascent company. Ethan, desperate for the resources to build his vision, and perhaps, still harboring a naive hope that not everyone in power was like Stone, signed. For a few months, it seemed like a dream. Vance opened doors, introduced Ethan to key players, and provided crucial seed funding. Ethan worked tirelessly, pouring his soul into developing Auratech Solutions' foundational algorithms, refining the security protocols that would become its hallmark. He even shared some of his more radical, unpatented ideas, trusting Vance's mentorship. But the serpent's kiss was inevitable. Vance, it turned out, was not interested in nurturing genius, he was interested in acquiring it cheaply. He began subtly shifting the terms of their agreement, leveraging obscure clauses, and demanding more control. Ethan's initial stake dwindled, his influence eroded. Then came the final blow. Vance attempted a hostile takeover, using legal loopholes and his deep pockets to seize control of Oratech Solutions' core intellectual property, including some of Ethan's most innovative, yet unpatented, security algorithms. The battle was brutal, fought in hushed legal chambers and behind closed corporate doors. Ethan, still relatively unknown and lacking the vast resources of Vance, found himself outmaneuvered, his trust once again shattered. He managed to salvage a portion of his intellectual property, but at a tremendous cost. He had to concede significant ground, losing control over key aspects of his early work and being forced to buy back parts of his own company at inflated prices. The experience was a stark, painful reminder that the world was still full of predators, and even in the gleaming promise of Silicon Valley, the shadows of betrayal loomed large. This second, profound betrayal solidified Ethan's resolve, hardening him further. He emerged from the legal battle with a deeper cynicism, a reinforced belief that true control and security could only come from absolute self-reliance. He became even more reclusive, more meticulous in his dealings, and utterly ruthless in protecting his innovations. His personal life, already barren, withered further. He built Oratech Solutions into an impregnable fortress, not just against external threats, but against the very human element of trust and vulnerability. He would never again allow anyone to hold power over his creations, or his destiny. The golden cage he now inhabited was a direct consequence of these repeated wounds, a self-imposed exile built on the ashes of lost trust. How did this second betrayal in the seemingly utopian Silicon Valley shape Ethan Miller into the guarded billionaire he is today, and how will it influence his approach to the looming threat of Victor Stone and the cosmic promises of Ethereum Ascensions? Uncover the deeper layers of his character in the next chapter. If you're intrigued by the forces that forged Ethan, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more profound insights, share your reflections in the comments, and help us spread this intricate narrative. The Orbital Hall in Los Angeles was less a convention center and more a cathedral of ambition, a gleaming testament to human ingenuity and, perhaps, human hubris. Its grand atrium, bathed in a soft, pulsating glow of holographic projections depicting celestial bodies and sleek spacecraft, hummed with the low murmur of the world's elite. Ethan Miller, cloaked in a bespoke suit that cost more than most people's annual salaries, felt a familiar prickle of discomfort amidst the glittering crowd. He was a billionaire, yes, but he was still Ethan Davis from Sterling Drive, and the ostentatious display of wealth always felt like a thin veneer over something less savory. He moved through the throng, a phantom among giants, his presence acknowledged with respectful nods and hushed whispers, but rarely direct engagement. That was how he preferred it. His eyes, sharp and analytical, scanned the room, taking in the faces of venture capitalists, tech magnates, and celebrities, all drawn by the siren song of space. He recognized a few, the usual suspects from the Forbes list, but his attention was quickly drawn to the stage. Dr. Emily White, CEO of Ethereum Ascensions, strode onto the platform, her presence commanding despite her relatively modest stature. She was a woman in her late 40s, with a shock of silver in her dark hair and eyes that sparkled with an almost evangelical fervor. A former astrophysicist turned entrepreneur, Dr. White was known for her audacious vision and her relentless pursuit of the impossible. She spoke with a captivating blend of scientific precision and poetic grandeur, painting a vivid picture of Project Stardust. Not just a suborbital hop, but a true orbital experience, a journey where clients would spend days in a luxurious space station, witnessing Earth's curvature, experiencing prolonged zero gravity, and gazing at the cosmos unfiltered by atmosphere. Imagine, she intoned, her voice resonating through the hall, the blue marble hanging below you, a fragile jewel in the vast, inky blackness. Imagine the silence, the profound sense of perspective, the transformation that comes from seeing our world, our home, from beyond. This is not just a trip, it is an awakening. Etheria Ascensions is not merely selling seats, we are selling enlightenment. The projected images behind her shifted, sleek, almost organic-looking spacecraft, the Stardust cruisers, docked at a modular orbital station, Elysium Prime. The interiors were depicted with lavish detail. Zero-G lounges with panoramic views, gourmet nutrient paste dispensers, and bespoke sleeping pods. The price tag, whispered among the attendees, was astronomical, a cool $25 million per seat for a week-long stay. Ethan listened, his analytical mind dissecting every word, every image. The technology was undeniably impressive, a leap forward even from the likes of Virgin Galactic or Blue Origin. He could see the financial potential, the insatiable demand from a class of individuals who had exhausted every earthly luxury. This wasn't just a niche market, it was a burgeoning frontier, ripe for exponential growth. Yet, a discordant note vibrated beneath the polished presentation. There was a faint, almost imperceptible hum of something off-key. He noticed the subtle, almost imperceptible flicker in Dr. White's eyes when she spoke of unlimited resources and unwavering support. It was a flicker he recognized from his own past, a telltale sign of a puppet on a string, or perhaps, a visionary blinded by ambition. He knew the kind of money that flowed into projects of this scale, and not all of it was clean. He had seen it firsthand in Detroit. His gaze drifted to the front row, where a figure sat, radiating an almost palpable aura of power and quiet menace. Victor Stone. The man who had stolen his past, silenced Michael, and built his empire on the ruins of their dreams. Stone, head of Stone Global Industries, now seemed to be a primary backer of Etheria Ascensions. A cold knot formed in Ethan's stomach. Stone's presence here, so deeply entwined with a project that echoed Michael's cosmic aspirations, felt like a deliberate, cruel twist of fate. It was a cosmic irony that stung. As Dr. White concluded her presentation to thunderous applause, Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the hull's climate control. The allure of space, once a pure dream shared with Michael, was now tainted by the shadow of Victor Stone. The potential investment, once a mere financial calculation, had become a moral dilemma. What dark currents flow beneath the dazzling promise of space tourism, and how will Victor Stone's involvement force Ethan Miller to confront not just his past, but the very future of his empire? Join us in the next chapter to uncover the unsettling truths. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more thrilling insights, share your theories in the comments section, and spread this compelling narrative across your social networks. The hum of the orbital hull faded into the background as Ethan Miller retreated, the invitation to project Stardust feeling heavier than lead in his hand. The image of Victor Stone, smug and powerful in the front row, was seared into his mind. It wasn't just the financial implications of Etheria Ascensions that now consumed him, but the chilling realization that his past, embodied by Stone, was not merely a ghost but an active, malevolent force still shaping his present. Back at Apollo Ridge, the sterile perfection of his home offered no comfort. He paced his study, the holographic displays now showing complex financial models of Etheria Ascensions, cross-referenced with public records of Stone Global Industries. The numbers were staggering, the potential returns astronomical. David Lee, his astute CFO at Oratech Solutions, had already sent him a dozen enthusiastic reports, highlighting the burgeoning market and the strategic advantage of early investment. Ethan, this is a goldmine, Lee had written in his last memo, a chance to diversify, to capture the next frontier. Our shareholders are practically salivating. But Ethan saw beyond the glittering projections. He saw the environmental impact reports, buried deep in the public domain, hinting at the massive carbon footprint of repeated launches, the alarming increase in space debris, and the potential for long-term atmospheric damage. He saw the ethical chasm, a playground for the ultra-rich, built on technology that could otherwise solve pressing global issues, while millions on Earth struggled for basic necessities. These concerns, once abstract, now resonated with the echoes of his mother, Sarah Davis, and the systemic inequalities that had claimed her life. Meanwhile, across the country in a bustling newsroom in New York, Olivia Rodriguez was already on the hunt. A seasoned investigative journalist for the City Sentinel, Olivia had a nose for corruption and a relentless drive to expose the truth, especially when it involved the powerful and the privileged. She had been following the whispers about Etheria ascensions for weeks, sensing a story far deeper than just luxury space travel. Her initial leads pointed to unusually opaque funding sources and a troubling lack of transparency in their environmental impact assessments. She had a gut feeling that something was being deliberately obscured. Olivia's initial articles, published in the City Sentinel, were subtle but pointed, questioning the sustainability of space tourism and the morality of such extravagant ventures in a world grappling with poverty and climate change. These pieces, while not directly targeting Etheria ascensions, created a ripple of negative press that was beginning to worry the space tourism industry. Environmental organizations like Earth Guardians, a formidable activist group, seized on Olivia's reporting, amplifying the concerns and staging protests outside Etheria's corporate offices. The pressure mounted on Ethan from all sides. David Lee and the board of Oratech Solutions were relentless. They saw his hesitation as weakness, an irrational emotional block. "This isn't about charity, Ethan," Lee had argued during a terse video conference. "This is about market dominance. If we don't invest, one of our competitors will, and will be left behind." The corporate world, a shark tank he had mastered, was now circling him, demanding a decision driven purely by profit. But the most insidious pressure came from Victor Stone. Stone, recognizing Ethan's presence at the orbital hall, saw an opportunity. He began making subtle moves, leveraging his vast network and influence. There were whispers of potential hostile takeovers targeting Oratech Solutions, thinly veiled threats delivered through proxies, and even suspicious fluctuations in Oratech's stock price. Stone wasn't just a backer of Etheria, he was a silent partner, pulling strings, and he clearly intended to either bring Ethan into his fold or crush him. The old fear, the one that had driven Ethan to change his name and build his empire, began to resurface. Stone knew his past, and he wasn't afraid to use it. One evening, as Ethan sat alone in his study, the weight of his dilemma pressing down on him, a notification flashed on his private terminal. It was an encrypted news alert from the City Sentinel, an article by Olivia Rodriguez. The headline read, "The Unseen Hand, Tracing the Shadowy Capital Behind Space's New Frontier." The article meticulously detailed a web of shell corporations and offshore accounts leading back to a familiar name. Stone Global Industries. Olivia was getting dangerously close, perhaps even closer than she knew. Ethan stared at the screen, a cold dread mixing with a flicker of something else, a perverse sense of validation. Michael's ghost, the one he carried in his heart, seemed to whisper, "He never changes, Ethan. He never changes." The cosmic promise of Etheria ascensions was indeed tainted, not just by environmental concerns or social inequality, but by the very man who had destroyed his youth. As the shadows lengthened across Apollo Ridge, Ethan Miller realized he could no longer simply observe from his golden cage. The game had changed. It was no longer just about investment, it was about survival, justice, and perhaps, finally, redemption. How will Ethan Miller navigate the treacherous waters of corporate pressure, public scrutiny, and the looming threat of Victor Stone, and what will he discover as he delves deeper into the dark secrets of Etheria ascensions? Stay tuned for the next thrilling chapter. If you're invested in Ethan's fight, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for ongoing updates, share your predictions in the comments, and spread this gripping saga far and wide. Ethan Miller's study transformed into a war room. The holographic displays, once showcasing serene celestial vistas, now pulsed with complex data streams, financial forensics, and intricate network diagrams. He had tasked his most trusted, albeit small, internal team at Oratech Solutions, a group of elite cybersecurity analysts led by his head of R&D, Dr. Lena Petrova, a new character, brilliant but fiercely loyal, to discreetly probe Etheria Ascension's technological infrastructure. He couldn't risk involving David Lee or the main board, not with Victor Stone's shadow looming so large. His initial suspicion about the off-key hum at the orbital hull had grown into a chilling certainty. As Dr. Petrova's team peeled back layers of Etheria's public-facing systems, they uncovered anomalies. Encrypted data packets, unusual server traffic patterns, and a peculiar, almost archaic, signature embedded deep within the core operational code of Etheria's Stardust cruisers. "It's like a ghost in a machine, Ethan," Dr. Petrova reported, her voice tight with a mixture of awe and concern during a secure video call. "A signature I've never seen before, yet it feels familiar. It's incredibly efficient, almost too elegant for its primary function as a flight management system." Ethan felt a cold dread creep up his spine. Run a deep scan against all known legacy protocols. Focus on anything from the late 90s, early 2000s, especially anything related to advanced data compression or predictive analytics. Hours later, the results flashed on his main display, a single word glowing ominously: Nexus. The world spun. Nexus Protocol. Michael's creation. Their shared dream. The very algorithm Victor Stone had stolen and twisted. It was impossible. Michael was gone. The Nexus Protocol, as they had built it, was supposed to be dead, buried with his past. Yet, here it was, resurrected, powering the very ships that promised to take the wealthy to the stars. "This Nexus Protocol is not just a flight system, Ethan," Dr. Petrova continued, unaware of the earthquake she had just triggered in her boss's mind. "Its core functionalities suggest capabilities far beyond navigation. Data manipulation, real-time environmental adaptation, even a sophisticated form of predictive targeting. It's military-grade, disguised as civilian tech." The pieces slammed into place with brutal clarity. Victor Stone hadn't just stolen the Nexus Protocol, he had perfected it, weaponized it, and was now integrating it into the most exclusive, seemingly innocuous venture imaginable: space tourism. The Stardust cruisers weren't just luxury yachts, they were potential instruments of surveillance, or worse, silent, untraceable weapons platforms, cloaked under the glamour of cosmic exploration. And Dr. Emily White, the visionary CEO, was either a willing accomplice or a pawn in Stone's grand, sinister game. A new, terrifying possibility dawned on Ethan. What if Michael wasn't dead? What if Victor Stone hadn't silenced him, but instead, had captured him, forced him to continue developing the Nexus Protocol for Stone Global Industries? The thought was a double-edged sword, a flicker of desperate hope for his friend, intertwined with the horrifying realization of Michael's potential suffering and forced complicity. His internal struggle intensified. To expose Stone now would mean revealing the Nexus Protocol's true origins, and by extension, his own past as Ethan Davis, the boy who had signed the fateful contract. It would mean risking everything he had built, Auratech Solutions, his carefully constructed anonymity. But to remain silent meant allowing Michael's legacy to be perverted, and the cosmos itself to become a stage for Victor Stone's dark ambitions. The golden cage of Apollo Ridge suddenly felt like a prison, not a sanctuary. Just as the weight of this revelation threatened to crush him, a new email notification popped up. It was from Olivia Rodriguez. The subject line was stark: "New leads on Stone Global Industries, a Detroit connection." Attached was a scanned, grainy photo of an old, forgotten newspaper clipping from the Detroit Free Press, a small article about a mysterious incident in a downtown alley, dated years ago. The details were vague, but the location, the timing. It was too close to Michael's disappearance. Olivia was digging in the right places, unknowingly unearthing the very foundations of Ethan's buried past. The universe, it seemed, was not just ironic, but relentlessly demanding. Ethan Miller could no longer hide. The Nexus Protocol, born of a desperate dream, was now a ticking time bomb, and he was the only one who could defuse it. With the chilling truth of the Nexus Protocol's weaponized potential revealed, and Olivia Rodriguez closing in on the secrets of his past. How will Ethan Miller choose to act? Will he risk everything to expose Victor Stone and potentially find Michael, or will the fear of losing his empire keep him silent? Discover the high stakes in the next chapter. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more exclusive content, share your insights in the comments, and spread the word about this unfolding drama. The revelation of the Nexus Protocol's integration into Etheria Ascensions and the chilling possibility of Michael Chen's continued existence under Victor Stone's control ignited a fire in Ethan Miller that had long been dormant. The cold, calculating pragmatist began to yield to the righteous fury of Ethan Davis. He knew he couldn't fight Stone alone, not without risking everything, but he also knew he couldn't stand by. His first move was to reach out to Olivia Rodriguez. It was a calculated risk, a direct violation of his decades-long vow of anonymity. He used a burner phone and an untraceable encrypted channel, setting up a clandestine meeting in a nondescript coffee shop in downtown Los Angeles, far from the prying eyes of Silicon Valley. He arrived disguised, a baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses obscuring his famous features. Olivia, sharp and observant, recognized him instantly despite the disguise. Her eyes, usually brimming with journalistic skepticism, widened slightly. "Ethan Miller," she questioned, her voice a low, disbelieving whisper. "Ethan Davis," he corrected, his voice raspy with disuse of his true name. He laid out the bare bones of the Nexus Protocol's origins, the theft by Victor Stone, and the horrifying implications for Etheria Ascensions. He didn't reveal everything about Michael yet, not until he had more concrete proof, but he provided enough verifiable data, encrypted logs, technical schematics, and financial anomalies linked to Stone Global Industries, to send Olivia's journalistic instincts into overdrive. "This is explosive," Olivia breathed, her pen poised over her notepad, her gaze piercing. "If this is true, Stone isn't just a corrupt businessman, he's a global threat." Their reluctant alliance was forged in that dimly lit corner. Ethan, the tech titan, provided the intel. Olivia, the tenacious journalist, provided the platform for exposure. She began to connect the dots, tracing Stone Global Industries' shadowy investments, their sudden pivot into space technology, and the alarming speed with which Etheria Ascensions had risen. Her investigation uncovered shell companies in the Cayman Islands, illicit arms dealings disguised as tech exports, and a pattern of silencing anyone who got too close. The Nexus Protocol, she realized, was not just a data compression algorithm. In Stone's hands, it was a master key to global dominance, capable of disrupting financial markets, controlling critical infrastructure, and even weaponizing civilian technology. Victor Stone, however, was not oblivious. He had built his empire on paranoia and preemption. He sensed Ethan's renewed interest, the subtle shifts in Oratech Solutions' internal security, the sudden surge in Olivia Rodriguez's investigative reporting. He knew Ethan's past, and he began to play his hand, not with brute force, but with psychological warfare and strategic sabotage. Oratech Solutions faced a barrage of cyber attacks, sophisticated and relentless, designed not to steal data, but to sow chaos and distrust. Key systems experienced inexplicable outages, sensitive internal communications were leaked, and rumors of Ethan Miller's instability began to circulate through financial news outlets. David Lee, his CFO, became increasingly agitated, demanding answers Ethan couldn't give. "Our stock is taking a hit, Ethan. What's going on?" Lee's voice was laced with panic during a board meeting. Then came the personal attacks. Ethan's private accounts were hacked, fabricated scandals leaked to tabloid news, and his security team at Apollo Ridge reported increasingly frequent, albeit thwarted, attempts to breach his perimeter. Stone wasn't just trying to stop him, he was trying to break him, to force him back into the isolated, paranoid shell he had once inhabited. The psychological toll was immense. Sleep became a luxury, every shadow a potential threat. He was reliving the fear of his youth, the helplessness that had defined his mother's death and Michael's disappearance. But amidst the chaos, Olivia made a breakthrough. Following a lead from a disgruntled former employee of Stone Global Industries, she uncovered a hidden data server, a relic from the early 2000s, buried deep within a defunct subsidiary. On it, she found not only irrefutable proof of Stone's original fraud against Ethan and Michael, but also encrypted communications detailing Michael Chen's forced labor. Michael was alive. He was being held, coerced into refining the Nexus protocol for Stone's nefarious purposes, a prisoner in his own genius. The Wraith algorithm Dr. Lena Petrova had mentioned was indeed Michael's work, a twisted evolution of their shared dream. The revelation was both a crushing blow and a surge of renewed purpose. Michael, his best friend, his brother in spirit, was alive. And he was suffering because of Ethan's past choices. The tangled web of deceit was finally unraveling, but the threads were razor-sharp, threatening to cut Ethan deeper than ever before. He had to act, not just for justice, but for Michael. As the lines between past and present blurred, and the stakes escalated beyond mere financial gain, how will Ethan Miller orchestrate his final confrontation with Victor Stone, and what sacrifices will he be forced to make to save Michael and expose the truth? Unravel the climax in the next chapter. If you're on the edge of your seat, please like this video, subscribe for the thrilling conclusion, leave your final predictions in the comments, and share this intense narrative with everyone you know. The escalating threats from Victor Stone were no longer subtle whispers, they were a thunderous roar. The day after Ethan's clandestine meeting with Olivia, Apollo Ridge, his fortress, was breached. Not by hackers, but by a team of highly trained operatives, silent and efficient. They didn't steal anything, they left a message. A single, bloody rose placed on his holographic desk, its petals wilting, a chilling reminder of Stone's reach and his capacity for violence. Ethan, alerted by his advanced security systems, had narrowly avoided a direct confrontation, retreating to his panic room as the operatives vanished into the night. The incident left him shaken, the sterile perfection of his sanctuary now feeling like a flimsy shield. The threats extended beyond his personal safety. Olivia Rodriguez, back in New York, received an anonymous package, a photo of her apartment building, with a red circle drawn around her window. Below it, a single word, silence. Ethan immediately arranged for her to be moved to a secure, undisclosed location, assigning 2 of his most trusted former military security personnel to her protection. The weight of putting others in harm's way, a ghost from Michael's past, pressed heavily on him. Meanwhile, Stone's attacks on Oratech Solutions intensified. A fabricated scandal, meticulously crafted from leaked, and doctored, internal communications, hit the financial news wires, accusing Oratech of unethical data mining practices. The stock plummeted, shareholders panicked, and David Lee, already stretched thin, was forced into a desperate damage control campaign. Ethan, this is a full-scale assault. Lee's voice was strained over a secure line. They're trying to dismantle us from the inside out. We're bleeding money, and the board is on the verge of a revolt. The pressure was suffocating. Ethan knew he was running out of time. Michael was still out there, suffering, and Stone was closing in, threatening to destroy everything Ethan had built and everyone he cared about. He had to find Michael, and he had to do it now. Working tirelessly with Dr. Lena Petrova, they pinpointed Michael's location. A remote, heavily fortified complex disguised as a geothermal energy plant deep within the desolate Nevada desert. The satellite imagery revealed a labyrinthine network of underground tunnels and reinforced bunkers. It was a prison designed for a genius, a place where Michael could be exploited without interference. Ethan knew he couldn't rely on conventional law enforcement, Stone's influence ran too deep. He assembled a small, hand-picked team. Dr. Petrova for her technical expertise, and 2 former Black Ops specialists, Marcus, Ghost, Holloway and Anya, Shadow, Petrova, no relation to Lena, just a common surname in the security world, who owed Ethan favors from previous, discreet security contracts. Their mission: infiltrate the Nevada facility, gather irrefutable, live evidence of Michael's captivity and the Nexus Protocol's true function, and if possible, extract Michael. The infiltration was a ballet of shadows and silent movements under the harsh desert moon. Ethan, relying on his years of coding and his innate understanding of security systems, bypassed perimeter alarms while Ghost and Shadow neutralized patrols. They navigated subterranean passages, the air thick with the smell of ozone and stale concrete, the silence broken only by the rhythmic hum of hidden machinery. Ethan's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and a desperate hope. Every step closer to Michael was a step deeper into the danger zone. Then, the alarm. A tripped laser grid, a misplaced footfall, a sudden, piercing wail that shattered the silence. Armed guards, heavily armored, swarmed from hidden alcoves. Ghost and Shadow engaged, a symphony of silenced gunshots and brutal hand-to-hand combat. Ethan, caught in the crossfire, ducked behind a reinforced pillar, the metallic tang of fear in his mouth. A bullet ricocheted inches from his head, embedding itself in the concrete. He saw Ghost take a glancing blow, grimacing but continuing to fight. "Ethan! Get to the core. We'll cover you!" Ghost yelled, his voice strained. Ethan pushed forward, his mind racing, the image of Michael driving him. He found the main control room, a sterile chamber filled with blinking lights and complex interfaces. He began frantically overriding the security protocols, his fingers flying across the holographic keyboards, a desperate race against time. He could hear the escalating gunfire outside, the shouts of the guards. He was so close. He finally breached the last firewall, accessing the facility's internal cameras. And there he was. Michael. Gaunt, pale, strapped into a chair in a glass-walled chamber, his eyes distant, fixed on a complex holographic display of swirling data, the Nexus Protocol in its full, terrifying glory. He was alive, but barely. Ethan felt a surge of relief, quickly followed by a wave of crushing guilt. This was his fault. Michael's suffering was a direct consequence of his past. Just as he was about to initiate the remote release, a heavy boot connected with his back, sending him sprawling. Victor Stone, flanked by two hulking bodyguards, stood in the doorway, a triumphant, chilling smile on his face. "Going somewhere, Mr. Miller? Or should I say, Mr. Davis? Did you truly think you could outrun your past, or outsmart me?" Ethan scrambled back, reaching for a discarded piece of equipment, but Stone's men were too fast. He was pinned, the cold steel of a gun barrel pressed against his temple. He could see Michael through the glass, still staring blankly at the Nexus Protocol, unaware of the life-or-death struggle unfolding just feet away. This was it. The precipice. With Ethan Miller cornered and Michael Chen's fate hanging in the balance, how will our hero escape Victor Stone's clutches, and what desperate measures will be taken to bring the truth to light? The ultimate confrontation awaits in the next chapter. If you're on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for the thrilling conclusion, leave your final predictions in the comments, and share this intense narrative with everyone you know. The air in Victor Stone's penthouse office, perched atop the tallest skyscraper in downtown Los Angeles, was thick with the scent of old money and new power. It was a space designed to intimidate, with panoramic views that made the city below seem insignificant. Ethan Miller, no longer disguised, walked into the lion's den, his posture rigid, his eyes burning with a cold resolve that belied the tremor in his hands. Olivia Rodriguez waited discreetly in a nearby hotel suite, ready to unleash her exposé the moment Ethan gave the signal. David Lee, at Oratech Solutions, was on standby, prepared for the inevitable corporate fallout. Ethan Miller, Victor Stone purred, leaning back in his ergonomic chair, a faint, condescending smile playing on his lips. He hadn't aged well, his face was a roadmap of indulgence and cruelty, his eyes still holding that chilling, predatory glint. To what do I owe the pleasure? Decided to finally join the future, have we? Project Stardust awaits your investment. You know why I'm here, Victor. Ethan's voice was low, strained, but firm. The Nexus Protocol. Michael Chen. It ends today. Stone's smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of surprise, then a hardening of his gaze. A bold claim, Mr. Miller. Old ghosts, are they? I thought you'd buried them deep enough, just like you buried your old self, Ethan Davis. He savored the name, a deliberate jab. What makes you think you can challenge me now? You're a tech mogul, not a detective. And Michael. Michael is a closed chapter. He's not a closed chapter, Victor. He's a prisoner. And the Nexus Protocol isn't just powering your space tourism fantasy, it's a weapon. I know what you're doing with Etheria Ascensions. I know about the data manipulation, the surveillance capabilities, the military applications you've disguised as civilian tech. Ethan laid out the evidence, not physically, but verbally, detailing the anomalies Dr. Petrova's team had found, the hidden server Olivia had discovered. He watched Stone's composure crack, just slightly. Stone's eyes narrowed. Impressive. You've been busy. But what good does it do you? You expose me, you expose yourself. The world will know Ethan Miller, the tech visionary, built his empire on a lie, on a stolen algorithm, on the back of a dead friend. He leaned forward, his voice a venomous whisper. And Michael? He's quite comfortable where he is. A genius, truly. But fragile. A little too much pressure, a little too much public scrutiny, and who knows what might happen to his delicate mind. Or his delicate health. The veiled threat against Michael was a punch to Ethan's gut. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, picturing Michael, his old friend, trapped, suffering. This was the moment of truth. He had to choose. His empire, his reputation, his carefully constructed life, or Michael's freedom and justice. I'm not here to bargain, Victor, Ethan finally said, his voice gaining strength, shedding the last vestiges of fear. I'm here to end this. I've already sent the full dossier to Olivia Rodriguez. The moment I don't check in, it goes live. Every detail. Every dirty secret of Stone Global Industries, every illicit deal, every connection to Etheria Ascensions, and yes, the truth about the Nexus Protocol and Michael. Stone's face contorted in a mask of fury. You wouldn't dare. You'd destroy everything. You destroyed everything first, Victor, Ethan retorted, the raw pain of his past fueling his resolve. You destroyed my mother's last hope. You destroyed Michael's life. You destroyed my innocence. What do I have left to lose that you haven't already taken? He then revealed the final, devastating blow. And I have Michael's own encrypted messages, his desperate pleas for help, detailing his captivity and your coercion. He's been sending them for years, hoping someone would find them. Olivia has them now. They're the final nail in your coffin. Stone recoiled, his face paling. Michael's messages. That was the one thing he hadn't accounted for, the one loose end he thought he had tied up. The genius he had exploited had found a way to fight back, even from captivity. The confrontation stretched, a silent battle of wills. Finally, Stone slumped back, defeat etched on his face. What do you want? He rasped, his voice devoid of its earlier arrogance. The truth, Ethan said, his voice unwavering. And Michael. Unharmed. And you confess. Everything. Victor Stone, for the first time in his life, was cornered. He confessed. He detailed how he had faked Michael's death, how he had kept him isolated in a remote, high-security facility disguised as a research lab in the Nevada desert, forcing him to refine the Nexus Protocol into a tool for global manipulation. He confessed to the market rigging, the corporate espionage, the environmental cover-ups, and his plans to use Etheria Ascensions as a front for a global surveillance network, with the Stardust cruisers as mobile data collectors and potential strike platforms. The confession was chilling, a testament to unchecked power and boundless greed. With Victor Stone's confession secured, and the truth about Michael finally within reach, what will be the fallout for Etheria Ascensions, Stone Global Industries, and Ethan Miller himself? Don't miss the dramatic revelations in the next chapter. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel for the full story, leave your reactions in the comments, and share this incredible journey with your friends and family. The digital world exploded. Olivia Rodriguez, armed with Victor Stone's confession and Ethan Miller's meticulously gathered evidence, published her exposé in the City Sentinel. The headline screamed, "Cosmic Deception, Billionaire Victor Stone's Space Tourism Empire Exposed as Global Surveillance Plot, Tech Mogul Ethan Miller Reveals Path to Unmasked Truth." The article was a masterpiece of investigative journalism, weaving together the threads of Stone's decades of corruption, the chilling details of the weaponized Nexus protocol, and the harrowing story of Michael Chen's captivity. It also bravely, and with a sympathetic tone, unveiled the true identity of Ethan Miller, Ethan Davis, detailing his tragic past in Detroit, his friend's supposed death, and his relentless, albeit isolated, rise to power. The impact was immediate and seismic. Stone Global Industries, a colossus thought impregnable, crumbled under the weight of the revelations. Stock prices plummeted, investigations were launched by the FBI, the SEC, and international regulatory bodies. Victor Stone was arrested at his penthouse office, his face a mask of disbelief and impotent rage as he was led away in handcuffs. His empire, built on deceit and exploitation, dissolved into scandal and ruin. Etheria Ascensions, once the darling of the space tourism industry, was immediately grounded. Project Stardust was suspended indefinitely, its Stardust cruisers impounded, their advanced systems now under intense scrutiny. Dr. Emily White, the visionary CEO, was brought in for questioning. While it became clear she was largely unaware of the Nexus protocol's true capabilities and Stone's deeper machinations, her ambition had blinded her to the ethical red flags. Her career, and the future of commercial space travel as envisioned by Etheria, was in tatters. For Auratech Solutions, the fallout was complex. The initial shockwave of the scandal sent its stock tumbling, and the board, led by a shell-shocked David Lee, demanded answers. Ethan Miller, however, faced the media storm head-on. In a rare public appearance, he confirmed Olivia's story, speaking with a raw honesty that stunned the world. He admitted his past, his mistakes, his fear, but also his unwavering commitment to justice and ethical innovation. His vulnerability, paradoxically, began to win over public opinion. The narrative shifted from tainted billionaire to redeemed hero. The most profound revelation, however, was the rescue of Michael Chen. Following Stone's confession, a joint task force, guided by Ethan's intimate knowledge of Michael's coding patterns and Olivia's investigative leads, raided the remote Nevada desert facility. Michael was found, emaciated but alive, his eyes hollowed by years of forced labor, but with a flicker of recognition when he saw Ethan. The reunion was tearful, a silent testament to a bond that had survived decades of separation and betrayal. Michael, though physically and psychologically scarred, was finally free. The world watched as the story unfolded, a modern epic of corporate espionage, personal redemption, and the dark side of unchecked ambition. The debate around space tourism intensified, no longer just about financial returns, but about ethical responsibility, environmental stewardship, and equitable access to the wonders of the cosmos. With Victor Stone's empire in ruins and Michael Chen finally free, what future awaits Ethan Miller and Auratech Solutions, and how will this reckoning redefine the very concept of space exploration? Join us for the final chapter, where new beginnings take flight. If this journey has moved you, please hit that like button, subscribe for the epic conclusion, share your final thoughts and hopes in the comments, and spread this powerful narrative to inspire others. The dust settled, but the landscape of Ethan Miller's life, and indeed the tech world, was irrevocably altered. Auratech Solutions had weathered the storm, albeit with significant losses. The initial stock plunge was severe, but Ethan's public confession, coupled with Michael Chen's emotional testimony about his captivity and the true nature of the Nexus Protocol, had sparked a wave of public sympathy and renewed trust. David Lee, initially panicked, became a staunch supporter, witnessing firsthand Ethan's unwavering moral compass. The company, under Ethan's guidance, began a painful but necessary restructuring. Ethan, no longer the reclusive billionaire hiding in Apollo Ridge, emerged as a different kind of leader. He sold off vast portions of his personal assets, redirecting billions into a new philanthropic foundation, the Michael Chen Foundation for Ethical Technology, dedicated to supporting young innovators from underprivileged backgrounds and funding research into sustainable technologies. Apollo Ridge, once his gilded cage, became the Foundation's headquarters, its vast spaces repurposed for collaborative labs and educational programs. Auratech Solutions pivoted sharply. The focus shifted from pure profit to innovation for impact. They divested from any projects with potential dual use, civilian and military, applications and instead poured resources into sustainable energy, advanced medical diagnostics, and accessible educational platforms. Ethan, with Michael by his side as a senior advisor, once Michael had recovered sufficiently, began to champion open-source initiatives, ensuring that groundbreaking technology served humanity as a whole, not just the privileged few. Michael, though still recovering, found solace and purpose in reclaiming his genius for good, ensuring the Nexus Protocol was repurposed for beneficial applications like global climate modeling and disaster prediction. His relationship with Olivia Rodriguez blossomed into a deep, respectful friendship, forged in the crucible of shared adversity. Olivia continued to break impactful stories, often collaborating with Ethan's foundation to expose corporate malfeasance and advocate for social justice. Their partnership, an unlikely alliance between a former reclusive tech titan and a tenacious journalist, became a symbol of accountability in an often unaccountable world. The dream of space, once tainted by Victor Stone's greed, began to transform. Ethan Miller, through Auratech Solutions and the Michael Chen Foundation, invested heavily in scientific space exploration, funding missions focused on climate research, asteroid defense, and the search for exoplanets. He became a vocal advocate for responsible space practices, pushing for international treaties on space debris and equitable access to orbital resources for scientific and humanitarian purposes. Space tourism, as a luxury commodity, faded from his interest, replaced by a profound belief in space as the next frontier for collective human advancement. Years passed. Victor Stone remained imprisoned, his empire dismantled. Dr. Emily White, humbled and remorseful, dedicated her life to advocating for ethical AI development. The scars of the past remained, but for Ethan Miller, they no longer defined him. He had lost a part of his fortune, his anonymity, and the naive belief in a purely meritocratic world. But he had gained something infinitely more valuable, his soul, his purpose, and the rediscovered bond with Michael. Looking out from the repurposed labs of Apollo Ridge, no longer a solitary figure but surrounded by young, bright minds, Ethan Miller gazed at the night sky. It was no longer a symbol of unattainable luxury or a stage for hidden agendas. It was a boundless canvas of possibility, a frontier to be explored with responsibility, integrity, and a shared vision for all of humanity. He had finally found his true north, not in the billions he amassed, but in the positive impact he could create. The millionaire's dilemma had been answered, not with an investment in a fleeting thrill, but with an investment in a future worth building, together. What does the future truly hold for humanity's journey to the stars, and how will the lessons learned from Ethan Miller's reckoning shape our path forward? Share your thoughts on this epic conclusion in the comments below. If you've been inspired by this story of redemption and purpose, please show your appreciation by hitting the like button, subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking narratives, and share this powerful tale to inspire others to look beyond profit and towards a brighter, more responsible future.